Hey everyone, Wandering as Guardian here. Welcome back to the grind. So today I'm going to be analyzing two different races that I partaked in, both in which I qualified in first place, but then crashed out at some point during the race. So we're going to be looking at those two races and seeing what went right. So today's races took place at Oulton Park Circuit, which is, I believe, how you pronounce that. And the first mistake I'd like to point out that I'm already making is I entered this race without ever driving this track before, and only getting about 30 minutes of practice time before the race started, and I'm still relying on the driving line just to make it through the track safely. So, yes, following it blindly gave me a pretty good time, and I was able to start in pole position, but I'm not a good enough driver to get around this track without it. I don't know where braking points are. I don't know where the braking points are without having it up. And that's a bad sign because it means that I'm not practiced enough on this track. What I should have done instead of doing this race is just gone into practice and just spent a day or two or three or however long it took to actually practice this track until I knew where I needed to brake, where I needed to turn, how fast I could go in each turn without the driving line. So that's just my first mistake. I'd like to point that out right off the bat. That was a smooth first lap. Still got a few turns left, but we were able to pull away pretty fast. And so this is what happened for about the next 10 minutes. I comfortably led the race. The guy behind me wasn't really faster than me. We were both pulling about the same lap times the whole time. And then I made one little mistake because I started to get nervous on the last lap, and I ended up taking us both out. So let's jump to that point now. So here we are on the second to last lap, and he had started catching up to me just a little bit. There were a few turns prior to this where I didn't push as hard as I could have, and he was starting to close the gap. And so that made me really want to push these turns here. And if you watch this right here, no! Lost control, crashed us both out, ruined both of our races. So, what happened and what can we learn from it? Why is my car not moving? So, basically here, I'm trying to push as hard as I can because it's the second to the last lap and this guy's right on my butt. And I try to cut that turn harder than I ever had before. And that was my first mistake because that turn is a little difficult. The dirt is worn away on the outside of that curb, leaving the outside edge to have a bit of bite to it. And that curb grabbed the inside of my rear wheel and sent me into a spin. So I was able to start to correct the spin by hitting my brakes. You can see I start to straighten back out. But the guy behind me wasn't expecting me to hit my brakes right on the racing line, especially with how close he was. He just didn't have any time to react. So that was definitely my fault. I take full blame for that, and I apologize for ruining both of our races. I'm sorry for that. But what can we learn from this? So what I've learned from this is that I need to practice these tracks a lot more before I enter live multiplayer races. If I had practiced this track for maybe 2 or 3 hours before I entered this race instead of the 30 minutes that I did, one, I probably wouldn't have needed to have the driving line on. I would have been able to experiment with this corner more and possibly discover that this danger exists here. And then I wouldn't have done it in a live multiplayer race. So that's what I've come to take away from this incident, and that's what I'm going to try to do moving forward, is just practice the track a lot more before I go into it, make sure I'm comfortable with it, I don't need any assists on just to get through it, and really experiment with every turn, know what it can take, know what it can't take, and if someone's right on my butt like this again, maybe don't try something new with less than a fraction of a second between us. I just don't think that's the time for experimentation. I think that's when you really need to fall back on consistency and just do your reliable line. And if he ends up passing you, then he deserves it. He was faster than you. Just let him have the win. I would also like to point out here that I would much rather have come in second place than in 7th or 8th or whatever I ended up finishing this one. So I should have just stuck with the consistency. If he was going to overtake me, just let him safely overtake me. He's clearly faster. He deserves it. And then just that way we both would have had a nice finish, and that would have been much nicer than trying to aggressively hold this position and then fail like I did. So let's look at the next incident and see what we can learn there. So this was the very next race. If the first one was at 10 o'clock or whatever, then this one was at 11. And my first mistake doing this race was I didn't back out and watch my race replay from the last race. I didn't try to learn anything from it. I just got irritated and then joined the next race. So I'm making a lot of the same mistakes. I'm still inexperienced at this track. I still haven't figured out all the nuances of every turn. I'm still relying on the driving line. But for this particular incident, I qualified in first place, and this was about halfway through the race, so around lap 5 or something. Again, me and this red car were very close to being tied the whole race. We were right on each other. At some point, I got nervous and touched the brakes when I didn't have to, allowing him to catch up. And again, I was thinking I could try to defend a little bit. So I was trying to hold the racing line. And if you can see, I basically just follow it right through. And what's happening is he's trying to pass on the right, but the racing line is coming around to the left. And, well, that was a backwards clip that I just looked at. But yeah, he's trying to pass on the right, and the racing line is coming around on the right. So I'm cutting him off. Now, there are two schools of thought in my brain as to who's at fault here. The first one is me, because I wasn't giving him room. The second is him, because as I was slowly cutting him off, he didn't hit the brake. He tried to force it. So we kind of just ended up playing chicken. Because obviously I was on the racing line, but I was also trying to force him to back down by getting over slowly like that. However, I didn't really, I don't know. I'm still a little questionable as to who's actually at fault here. I'm willing to accept the full blame. And moving forward, what am I going to do differently here? If I'm in a position like this, I mean, he's clearly faster than me. He has the right to pass. Like, I feel like he is capable of passing me. It's a very long straightaway. I should have just stayed on the left side of the track and just let him pass. Again, I would much rather have finished this race in second than in last, which is what ended up happening. So moving forward, especially at these lower levels, I think we just need to be a lot less aggressive in how we defend our positions. Just stay away from other cars is the goal until we get up into some higher classes where someone might know how to defend or know how to attack too. Because this red car is a pure rookie. I think he was like a 2.5. So I don't know if that's a new account for him or what, but he hit this account. There's some evidence that he's a pretty novice racer. So me trying to defend like that might not have been something he was expecting to have happen. Even if I was in the right to do that, I should have been aware of his skill level and anticipated that he would have just done whatever he wanted. So moving forward, gonna practice the races a lot more. Gonna try to stay away from other cars. I'm gonna have to not fight for position so hard, and if someone's just faster than me, I think it's safer and better for both of our iRating scores if we just don't play bumper cars, right? I just stay out of his way, let him pass. I come in second. I'd be perfectly happy with a second place finish, especially when the alternative is to crash out into the field. So those are two incidences that happened to me on my last racing session, and I knew I needed to stop and look at these replays and learn from them. Another thing I want to do is, if I have an incident again, even if I don't make a video about it, I think it would be beneficial to stop playing the game. As much as I might want to, as much as the dopamine might feel good, stop playing the game, go to the replay, watch the replay, and just analyze it for myself. You know, maybe talk out loud a little bit about it. Even if I don't make a video, I just think that that's something else that I would like to do moving forward, because then I would be able to see things like, oh, I'm not good enough to be racing this track right now. I need to go practice. Don't jump into another race because you're all excited, you know? So, all right. So that's all for this episode of The Grind. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I really like doing this video series. It's putting outside pressure on me to watch my replays and analyze them and actively try to get better at sim racing, which is something I've always wanted to do. So I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. If you like it, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. All that YouTube stuff helps build the algorithm, and it gives me dopamine whenever I get a little notification. So that's always fun too. Also, be sure to check out my Twitch channel, which is linked down in the video description, if you want to watch me do my sim races live. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of practice, especially after this week. So come hang out with me, watch me practice, see what I'm doing. There's a couple new features in iRacing that I want to try out that will help enhance my practicing. So that'll be fun. I'll be over there. So go check that out if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good day, good week, good month, good year. Have a good life, and I'll see you on the track.